Here's what I'm going to bet for almost everyone listening to this. The last time that you gave your word and broke it was a week ago or less for almost everybody. And here's my challenge to you. Go a week without breaking your word once for any reason. 1 week. Any reason. See how you feel. See what it does to your own sense of concept as a man. See what it does to your ability to generate results, manifest your word in the world. Because I'm telling you, it's going to have huge, huge impacts.
Welcome to the show. Today we have Nicky Billou. He is an author. He is an Olympic gold medalist trainer. He is a men's work leader. You know, it's time to start keeping your word. He's going to teach us as men to refine what it means to be a man, right? To stop BSing on the planet, to start to keep your word, to be your word. He builds strong leaders, strong men. The men's work that he does is legendary. You're going to love this show. Nicky, welcome to the show. Your passion for men's work is awesome. You know, you have really taken on the integrity of the man, right? Bringing us men back to what built this country, what built this world, and continues to build it, right? I mean, there's strong men out here, and we have great passion and integrity and strength and wisdom, and sometimes that gets messed up in the media. And I really know your crusade to really bring back that strong male energy that we have, and I think that excites me, right? Like I think a lot of us men need that support.
1000%. So I think there's a couple of things that we got to talk about as background, which will help put this in the proper context as we move forward. Okay. So where we're at today in Western society is not an accident. It didn't just happen. Our society didn't come to be here. So I'll tell you what I mean by that. 100+ years ago, the very first communist nation came into being. That was Soviet Russia back in the day. Vladimir Lenin had a vision, and his vision was one world communist government, right? And he felt that this was the best way, this Marxist utopia for human beings to live. But standing in his way were some obstacles. The main obstacle was the United States, whom he called the main adversary, because the United States was based on individual freedom, and he thought there's no way we can make this happen unless the United States is out of the way. But the United States was too strong. You couldn't attack the United States and defeat it from without. And especially 100 years ago, the nation was very unified, and the idea of someone attacking the United States was ludicrous, because the whole country would come together and defeat the enemy. So he said, what we got to do is we got to go subvert the United States from within. We got to use its very openness against itself. So he had a German communist who was a colleague of his named Willy Münzenberg. Willy Münzenberg was sent to the United States with a mandate, and his mandate was to create a multi-decade strategy to basically subvert the US from within by attacking 3 sets of institutions. Number 1 was the educational institutions. Number 2 was storytelling, Hollywood. And number 3 was the media. And so if you go look at newspapers, textbooks, and Hollywood movies from that era, the late 1910s, 1920s, 1930s, all overtly patriotic, all overtly pro-American. You go 80, 90, 100 years later, and it's more mixed. And in fact, a lot of that has changed. And there was a Soviet kind of destabilization KGB agent who defected to the West named Yuri, I think his name was Berezov, right? There's a big YouTube video of his that you can go watch, who talks about how they would go about destabilizing countries. And that one of the things they were doing to destabilize the US is they were attacking men and manhood and masculinity, because young men of military age are the ones who can resist this sort of thing. If you start to over time degrade men, manhood, and masculinity in a society, then it can't happen. They won't be able to fight back. And if you look back in history, history repeats itself. Stefan Arnio says, history repeats itself. You've got different characters, different costumes, but the stories are always the same. Ancient Rome, men, manhood, masculinity were what grew ancient Rome into the power that it was, but then it started to degrade itself, and men, manhood, and masculinity were not valued, were not prized, and Rome collapsed. The barbarians came and took it over, and that's really been kind of a bit of the plan. So this is what's been going on. It's like men, all of a sudden, people didn't just say, oh, okay, we think men are bad now. No, this is deliberate. This is caused in order for people to be able to subvert us. And if you look at what's going on outside the country, right, there's a war in the Ukraine. China and Russia, our two biggest adversaries, have become closer to one another. China is making all these noises about invading Taiwan. And right now, one of the reasons they're doing this is because we're being led by our leaders, not in a strong way, to basically see that our enemies, see that we can be messed with, we can be toyed with. And this, to me, I've seen the backdrop of all of this, and I've seen it in men in general. A lot of men today are lost. A lot of men today don't know what it is to be a man. They are following a whole bunch of different gurus. There's a lot of different gurus out there saying, I can lead you to the promised land. And there's this whole thing that a whole bunch of men are saying, you want to be a high value man. And they go, okay, high value man, that sounds great. What does that mean? Well, a whole bunch of these folks are saying a high value man, this guy makes a lot of money, guy who attracts a lot of women, gets a lot of women into bed, supposedly, and he's ripped, right? This is a high value man. And I'm like, this is not a high value man. This is a self-indulgent teenager, okay? Making money is great, Anthony. You and I are both capitalists. We believe in making money. It's important. It's necessary. Being in shape, fantastic. You got to be in the best shape you can be. And if that means you get ripped, awesome. Good for you. But is the best message to a young man, go sleep with a lot of different women? Or is the best message to a young man, become a productive member of society, go find the one woman, a good woman that you can make a family with and help us strengthen and grow our society of strong men over time? And to me, this is the type of messaging that I want to see be out there. Unfortunately, in the world of social media and TikTok, the messaging that's getting the most eyeballs at the moment is the messaging of money, girls, abs, and that's what's happening there. But you know what makes a man a high value man? And you and I discussed this. It's only one thing, really. It's, does that man keep his word? Can you count on that man to keep his word? And if the answer is yes, he's a high value man. If the answer is no, he's not a high value man. And I'll tell you, for almost all men today, the answer is no. I had a man yesterday who was supposed to come to our fire night, our men's fire night. And this is a man who, I normally have had a lot of respect for his word. He had an opportunity last night, last minute, to go meet a couple of senior VPs at Deloitte. And so he blew us off. And I called him and I said, look, man, you can do whatever you want. You're a grown man. But I'm telling you right now, I know this seems like a good idea to go see these guys. This is going to help your business, blah, blah, blah. But what you should do is you should call these men and say, I'm sorry, I can't make it. I have a previous commitment I already gave my word to. Why? Because if you do that, then you're telling God, you're telling your soul within that what you say matters. What you say is important. God should take you seriously. Your soul should take you seriously. If you don't, and you change your word because you got a better offer, then what you're saying is, my word's not that important. Don't pay attention to me. When I tell you I want to be a billionaire, I don't really mean it, right? I'm willing to sell out on that. When I tell you I want to be a best-selling author, I'm willing to sell out on that. Whatever it is I tell you, I'm willing to sell out on that, because I'm not a man who can keep my word. And I asked the men in our community, when do you think a man should keep his word? And they come out to me and they go, always, always, always. I go, yeah. Great, always. But really, when should a man keep his word? Because that's just a stock answer that everyone's going to give that don't really mean. Right. A man should keep his word when it's inconvenient for him to keep his word. When it's tough, when it's going to cost him money to keep his word, when it's going to cost him the opportunity to go have sex to keep his word, when it's going to cost them the opportunity to do something more fun and more enjoyable. That's when a man should absolutely keep his word, because that is the hard work of building your character and of building your word that is going to pay off in the future. The actions you take today, who you choose to be today, is going to reverberate far into the future in terms of who you're going to be, what results you're going to generate going forward.
It is something that it's delightful to go through that, right? To feel that feeling of integrity. When I say I'm going to do it, even, and one of my judgments is that the world got so damn overwhelming that men are shaken, right? They're walking around, everybody's pointing fingers at them. They're the problem. They're the problem. This is the problem. That's the problem. And it starts with that entire integrity piece, right? When my word is my bond, I say I'm going to do it, and I show up and I do it. Just if I start with that foundation, look, that feeds everything else that we do. It's never been easy to keep your word, right? It takes a cost to it, but it is the easiest thing to do to change our life, right? When my word is my bond, and that predicates everything that I do. If my word is my bond with the way I treat my morning, right? This morning I got up and it's Thursday. I'd say we're filming on a Thursday today. I've worked out every single day this week from Sunday to here. I've worked out for the last 65 days. And my word is that I'm going to do 90 workouts in 90 days. Right. And that's it. And today I got up, I'm like, I'm tired. Like, I'm doing pretty good. And right. But my bond is that I'm going to work out. Now look, it's not about the abs or the girl, but it's about, like, I made a word. And right, when I keep my word to myself, I don't negotiate with myself in the morning. Like, there's something about the feeling on the other side of that has me, it's an esteemable act. And the place where all of us men are, where I'm the soup, right? We're the soup of feelings, emotions, and things that are happening. And what's throwing off the soup of most men is they don't have that esteemable feeling, right? I mean, I think you hit on the integrity starts there. And then that perpetuates into families, into schools, into business meetings, into our entire world. And if we can go back to a basic, it's one of the number one things that I can change, and it's not that hard, but I make it difficult.
Yeah. And I'll tell you something right now. If you're listening to this, when was the last time you gave your word and you broke it? Really? Was it today? Was it yesterday? Was it last week? Was it last month? Was it last year? Here's what I'm going to bet for almost everyone listening to this. The last time that you gave your word and broke it was a week ago or less for almost everybody. And here's my challenge to you. Go a week without breaking your word once for any reason. 1 week. Any reason. See how you feel. See what it does to your own sense of concept as a man. See what it does to your ability to generate results, manifest your word in the world. Because I'm telling you, it's going to have huge, huge impacts. So I'm going to tell you a story about a great American, legendary entrepreneur, Kirk Kerkorian. Do you know who Kirk Kerkorian is?
Sure.
So Kirk Kerkorian, there was a book written about him by Bill Rempel, and Bill was on my podcast called The Gambler, right? And it's the life story of Kirk Kerkorian, how, basically this poor kid from, I think, Glendale, California, ended up becoming the greatest deal maker in capitalist history, right? And in the book, there is a passage where Kerkorian and his team were attempting to buy or sell MGM at the time. And they made a deal. They agreed. They shook hands. And the very next day, another outfit came by and gave them a way better offer. Like, not slightly better, but way better. It was a lot more money. And Kirk's president just like, damn, we just made this deal. So he called Kirk and he said, Kirk, I need your help. He says, what's up? He said, yesterday we made this deal with X group, but today, I got an offer from Y group and it's for this much more. And Kirk said, I see. Did you give those guys yesterday your word that you were going to do this? And the guy goes, yeah. And he was about to say, but. And he said, then why the hell are you fucking calling me?
That's right. That's right.
Right? That's what he said. I pay you money to do this job, and you know what I expect you to do once you've given your word. Click. So they did the original deal, not the newer deal. But you know what happened as a result of that deal? Those guys that did the deal with Kirk found out about this. They were astounded. Word spread through the business community that Kirk Kerkorian's word was unshakable. Do you realize how many people opened themselves up to wanting to do a deal with Kirk Kerkorian because of this, who were never open to it before? Can you imagine that, Anthony?
Oh yeah, come on. I mean,
how much more money
right.
in the long run he made because of that move, which in the short run cost him $300 or $400 million.
It's one of those phenomenal things that when I am my bond, when my word is my bond, right? The business partners that I have can count on me, right? When I say something and I do it, I mean, my venture to say is the most successful people in business aren't the ones who are the ones who keep their word, are the ones who customers can count on. I mean, I'm not looking for the cheapest price. I'm looking for people I can play with in the playground of business that or life that are keeping their word. That I can here. Thanks for coming to do this with me, but you're committed to doing this, and I can count on you to do that, even if the price point is more than I expect. I end up in a spot where we end up having something together, like no matter what. I mean, we do construction every single day, right? And in the construction world, there's all of this new language that says, well, we're doing our best. I worked really hard. All of that stuff is nonsense. That I did my best. I worked really hard. That's a story that we tell ourselves. You said you'd be done on this day, be done on that day. What does it take to do that? Now that way of living changes, right? It puts me into a place where I'm accountable. You can count on me, right? When I show up and I say I'm going to do this, now it puts my whole life into action, right? How do I look at that? Now, I also sometimes feel that people take on things that they might not really are committed to, right? I think that whole commitment starts at the request. Hey, you have the right to say no, right? If you're not going to do that and you're not committed to it 100%, and you can't see you have the ability to do it, don't say you can do it. Right? I don't need you to tell me you can do something and then show up and then have you not deliver. Cause I look, life's too quick, right? Everything that I'm doing around here happens, I want people that can make things happen. And that happens in my family life. Look, if my kids tell me we're planning to go on vacation, and all of a sudden they get something they have to do, and it messes up the whole thing for the whole family, right? And I got teenage kids now. They're all here. If we're gonna go on a vacation somewhere, I'll put on the calendar for 6 months out. Great. And I'll plan it. My wife goes through its whole thing. And one of you does show up, it messes up the whole mojo for the whole group, right? If I do the same thing in a business deal where I'm going to build a building somewhere and a contractor says, hey, I'll deliver this on you on July 1st. And all the rents that are tied to that deal, they don't deliver that. That messes up the whole deal. The economics change, right? If I look at the way that I eat, if we say, hey, look, this week we're going to work on counting everything we do in our diet, and we don't do that, all that effect. And my judgment is that there's a lot of that throughout our whole society that's plaguing us. It's almost like a virus, and it's grown to be some sort of, well, it's okay, I'm doing, and it becomes this whiny way of living.
It's 100% correct. So in 2023, I've decided that one of the things that I'm going to do inside of my coaching practice is I'm going to offer a program for men who own a multi-million-dollar business. I want them to be entrepreneurs, business owners, preferably married men, and there's a reason for that, that are still hungry and still want to take it to another level. And the coaching that I'm looking to do for these men is we're absolutely going to take their business to another level. I mean, I'm committed to helping them double, triple, quadruple, fivefold, tenfold their business. But the way we're going to deliver that is we're going to work on them as a man. And I'm going to make them take a deep, dark dive look at themselves and where they are falling short as a man. So this can be private. We're not going to be blabbing about this all over the world, right? Because obviously a man like that needs to keep certain things confidential. But there are 4 things, maybe 5, but 4 for sure, that we're going to look at in a very focused way. Number 1 is I'm going to look at their word. I'm going to make them look at their word. I'm going to have them look at where they're breaking their word, all the little places, all the big places. And then through that process, I'm going to teach them to become masters of no. They need to say no. Too many men today want to be nice guys. Okay. Nice guy's not a good man. Jordan Peterson said it best. A good man is a dangerous man who has it under voluntary control, not a nice guy.
That's right.
Nice guys are dangerous, actually, to society. So I'm gonna get them to learn how to say no. I'm gonna get them to say yes to very few things, but by golly, they're gonna do those things. Mm-hmm. There is no escaping those things. There is no, oh, well, no, you said it. It's happening. I don't care. I don't care if you've got to kill yourself to get it done, but it will happen. And my objective is to get that. My objective is to get them to take on their health at a higher level than they've ever taken on their health. Because one of my observations of successful men is they don't take care of their health well enough. A lot of them go, but I go to the gym. Look at me. I look good. Really? What do you eat on a day-to-day basis? How much rest do you get? How much sleep do you get? How much sleep do you get? Do you go to bed with this? Or do you leave this out of your bedroom for 2-3 hours before you go to bed? Do you spend time with your wife and your family? Or is that phone, the email, the text, is that going on the whole time you're there? We're going to shift all of that for you. So that's going to happen. Next thing we're going to do, what kind of relationship do you have with God, with your maker? Are you Christian, you Muslim, are you Hindu, you Jew? I want to know, how much time do you spend on a day-to-day basis with your holy texts, with your holy books? In both my offices, I have a Bible. I'm a Christian, okay? I know not everybody's a Christian, but I have a Bible here.
That's right.
And you can see here, this is where I go when I read my Bible. Are you reading your holy book on a daily basis? Is God inspiring you? Are you in touch with that part of who you are? No? Okay, let's make sure that you start to do that. And then the other thing I want them to do is I want them to get really clear that all this work is tied and tethered to family, to loved ones. How much time are you spending with your kids, with your wife, with your mom, with your dad, with your brothers, with your best friends that you grew up with? 0? Like once in a while? No. That's all going to change. We're going to make sure that you spend time with the people that you love and that love you. That's important for you to do. And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to strengthen your self-sufficiency mentally. You got to become a reader. How much reading do you do? How much thinking do you do on your own? Are you a thought follower? Are you a thought leader? Do you think for yourself, or no? Do you just parrot what you hear on the media and things like that? And I know what I'm telling you right here, a lot of men are listening to this and they're probably getting uncomfortable. They're going,
That's right.
Screw this guy. I don't want to do anything like that. I'm like, okay, then you're not for me. And definitely I'm not for you. But there's going to be men that are going to listen to this and go, this guy is exactly who I've been waiting to hear from. Does a coach like this even exist? All right.
That's right. That's right.
That's what they're thinking. I mean, I want to talk to this guy. I don't care if if he's going to charge me 6 figures to coach me. I know on the other side of this, I'll be worth 8, 9, 10 figures. Let's go. Those are the dudes that I want to talk to. I want a half a dozen of those guys one-on-one this year. And at some point, I want to put together a business mastermind of men. I know it's old-fashioned. A lot of people are going to go crazy. You're sexist. No, I'm not sexist. There's lots of business masterminds for women. I think that's great. I think we need a business mastermind for men, one that's not politically correct, one that allows men to be men and have a masculine conversation. Everywhere in our lives today as men, we don't get to have masculine conversations. At work, it's become a feminized space. Let's face it, there's women in there. You're going to have to be careful with what you say and what you do. In the home, with your family, you're with your wife. You better not be having a masculine conversation with your wife. You're a dummy if you do. The only place you can have a masculine conversation with is with around other men who understand what it is to be masculine, have a masculine conversation. We need this. This feeds our soul as men, and successful in every way that we do business, we do life.
You know, that iron sharpens iron conversation between men, right? When I am, my word is my bond, my life is my integrity. You know, look, that's not something that's easy to figure out. I don't know that throughout, as you went through each one of those aspects of that, I can tell you there's places when I've been on it and great. And that's the thing, it's a practice, right? To be that man is a practice. It's not always perfect. And sometimes I find myself shaming myself and going, oh my God, you fell off of the beam. You're not in alignment with, you know, either my spiritual practices or my physical practices or my integrity practices. Those are, and they're all practices. And I think when what I know is that when I have men around me, right, that kind of leadership, you know, the old days, you had someone who, when they were tough, it was like tough love, right?
Yep.
And they would say something to you and they weren't always nice about it. Right.
No.
But you loved them and you trusted them and it was okay. But today, now you got people out there who you can't trust, who say mean things, and the world that becomes toxic, right? When somebody who's holding you accountable, someone who's standing in your face going, hey, look, that's not okay. Bullshit. Sit down, shut up. You don't know what you're talking about. We're going to work on this. And there was something about that from the old timers that I loved, right? My mentors, the men in my life who guided me. It was okay for them to be a little tough on me and skip some of the sweet stuff, right? Because I actually knew I trusted them, and our whole point was to get to, you know, to really get some value out of it, right? To have those men in my life, and I hope that I'm that way with the men in my life, that, you know, they can trust that my integrity is to them. I'm not trying to get anything out of them. My whole goal is that we're working together to build a life that's worth living. Right. So that the men that are around here that are all waffling, that are walking around, they're like zombies. Like a lot of guys are walking through life as zombies and they're lifeless and limpless. And all of a sudden you start talking like this with them and you can feel it. Now, there's those out there who are scared of this and they'll make this toxic. They'll make that this kind of, and to me, those are the guys who I don't want to be around. It's scary because when you talk this way about being at cause and putting ourselves in action, there are that group of men who want to check out and they'll use all kinds of BS to do that. And they'll toxify this behavior. They'll make this, and it's not, right? Look, holding your integrity, being a man of men, be the kind of men that support your family, your community, your neighborhood, your religion, all of the above can never be toxic. Right. That can never be toxic. Now we've learned how to get smarter about things and we've gotten more insight about behaviors. We've got, you know, to continue to grow and make a society that's, you know, has a whole bunch more integrity to that conversation. There's the gift, right? There's that's the practice that I am. In this now time, we as men are called to be better, right? To stand up and take another step in mankind and be better than men than we ever have been. And that's hard to say that because, you know, the guys that are walking around as zombies, you got to grab our brother and go, hey, come on, let's wake up for a second. Let's do this together and move forward. And that strength perpetuates our whole society. And that's fun to watch when I see a man's eyes light up, right? I see them become energized. It's fun to watch that energy that happens with them and with all of us, right? Together, it happens together with us. And, you know, it's inspiring.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. And here's the thing I want to say to a man listening to me who's a businessman and go, that all sounds great, but what does that have to do with my business? And I'll say there's two answers to that. One is that who you become as a man, your character has everything to do with how you're going to show up and operate your business and how people are going to relate to you in your business, people who work with you, people who work for you, and people who are your clients. That's number one. And number two, I'm a businessman, and when I coach men, I don't just coach them to say, okay, we're going to just work on this part of you as a man, we're going to know your business. No, we're going to have business conversations. We're going to look at what aspects of your business are going well and what aspects aren't going well. And in most instances, not all, most instances, what I find is a successful entrepreneur, multimillionaire entrepreneur, has one of three things that are not going as well as they ought to be going for him in his business. One is his sales could be stalled out. Sales and marketing isn't working. Two is culture. He hasn't really paid much attention to culture. There isn't a deliberate culture that's been created there. So that's got to be turned around. You got to create a fantastic culture where people are happy to be working for you, and all that. And third is he doesn't really have systems and processes. He was just so charismatic. He grew the business to a certain size, but there's no real systems and processes to make sure that it can last without him. If he leaves, everything's going to collapse. You know what I mean? So those are the big three areas that we look at. Of course, there's other areas too, and those can be addressed as well. But, as someone who's worked with a lot of business folks, those are the three areas that we usually look at and we address. But I'll tell you, every man listening to us today should understand one thing, that until you look yourself in the eye in the mirror and admit to yourself that your word sucks, and sucks is a technical term, and that you just don't keep it nearly as much as you need to, and you take it back all the time. You give it and you take it back. Until you admit that, alcoholic conversation in AA, right? Where they say, oh, I'm an alcoholic. Well, you're a not word keeper-aholic. You know what I mean? You're addicted to not keeping your word. Until you admit that and you're ready to take action on that, with the help someone like myself and a group of men, nothing's going to shift. Nothing's going to change. I know so many men who are super successful. I know a fellow who's a multimillionaire. Couldn't keep it in his pants with his wife. Why out? Marriage has gone to hell in a handbasket. You know what I mean? That wasn't good, that he couldn't keep his word to his wife, to honor and be faithful and all that good stuff. Honor, cherish, be faithful. Men think that because they made a little bit of money, they're Superman. They got it all figured out everywhere in their life. And I'm telling you, that's the most dangerous set of thoughts that a man can have. When you make money, you need to remember, you worked hard. I agree. You also got a little bit lucky, and God showed you favor. It's not all about you. You weren't some Superman. Calm down and relax. Thank God for all the blessings you have. And remember, you're mortal. Remember that you don't know everything about everything. And it's time to get humble and start to learn, not start to get arrogant and throw your weight around.
But there's a big part of success. I think everything you talked about really brings us to the man who shows up at the office. Let's just celebrate success in the business world, success from the family world. When the man who shows up at the office is prepared to lead people, right? When I do my work, right? When I do my work on me and I show up at the office ready to lead people, right? When I have my word is my bond in my family, my word is my bond in my community, my word is my bond with my leader, my creator, right? That spiritual practice, whatever those are for people, and everybody has a different one. And I don't judge what their spiritual practices are theirs, right? And all of us should have ones that work. But when I am there with that bond, right? I don't deserve to show up. I don't deserve many gifts in the office if I don't show up ready to lead. So if I don't bring this vehicle there ready to go, right? If as a leader, my job is to be present. If I drag in drama to the day, if I drag in bad health today, if I drag in, addictions to shame, guilt, drugs, shopping, gambling, if I bring in my addictions to the game, right? Today, I can look at my emotions as, shame is just one of the addictions that people have. Shame in themselves, or fear is an addiction, or anger is how many friends do you have that walk around angry? You might as well chop it up like a line of cocaine and snort it. Anger can be just as much how many angry men are out there and they're just getting high on anger? And look, I've been there where I get so mad. I wake up in the morning, I've got an angry hangover. Right? You ever have one of those angry hangovers? I'm like, come on, emotions can be as much, and people don't get that, like the emotional sobriety, right? Bringing to the office the clarity of mind to be present. And in order to do that, I've got to I got a man who's ready to do that. And therein lies the work right? Before I show up there, I get my work. Now, you touched on something about culture. I really want to get back into how do you fix, you know, a business culture when you're working with an entrepreneur. They've got, you know, we'll talk about systems a little bit, but we're going to talk about culture. As a man, you show up. As a leader, you show up, and you would need to work on culture. How do you start on that?
Well, the first thing I'd ask a few questions is, who are your top people? How long have they been there? And if I were to ask them to rate you as a leader on a scale of 1 to 10 without you being in the room, what would they say?
Nice.
Right. And, you know, if you don't know the answer to those questions, and I'm telling you, a lot of entrepreneurs, I'd say a majority of entrepreneurs don't, then you have not thought through how to deliberately create a culture. You just hired a bunch of people and you started work. You didn't sit down and think, what kind of workplace am I looking to create here? What kind of team do I want? How do I want to set my team up to win? That's really the question. How do I want to set my team up to win? If you haven't done that, then your culture is mediocre to terrible, like bar none. Okay. You might go, no, 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 but it's not true. And look at this and look at that. I'm just like, let's go talk to your employees. Get the hell out of the room. We're going to give them a survey. It's going to be anonymous, and I'll tell you what the results are. Okay. And they're not going to be pretty. You're not going to like them. So if there is a business owner that buys that and understands that, yeah, we need to do something, then I want to have probably an hour to 2 hour session with them alone, without any team members, any key people, to say, okay, what is it that you want out of your business? What's your mission? What are your targets for not just the quarter, but the year, the next 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years? And what kind of team do you need in order to achieve that? And then I want to ask them, what kind of workplace environment do you need to create that you're going to be able to attract this team and retain this team? So they're like, I'm thrilled to be here. So those are the questions we want to ask. And you want a place where people feel like there's a progression path for them. If there isn't a progression path in the company for them, if they're better off going somewhere else, you want to be the kind of place that makes it easy for people to do their service with you and then move on somewhere else if that's what their career path is. Putting together programs to help retain people. So one of the programs that I have originally was for coaches and consultants. It's around thought leadership. You and I talked about it briefly, Anthony, the other day, if you recall, right?
Yep.
So thought how to become the go-to authority in your space, right? And then I thought to myself, well, you know, a lot of business owners could use this. A lot of business owners could learn how to be the Elon Musk of their space, the Patrick Bet-David of Valuetainment. You know, Pat in Valuetainment, do you know that channel?
No, I love to hear about it.
So he's a fellow who had an insurance business, created a thought leader brand for himself. He hired a guy like me and he started to put out videos, and then he wrote books, and his messaging was all around entrepreneurship. Lo and behold, he took his 200-person insurance company and grew it to 40,000 agents, and he sold it for 400 million last summer because of being a thought leader. Right. So Pat's everywhere. He's ubiquitous. If you go on YouTube, Valuetainment and the Patrick Bet-David podcast right now are everywhere. Now, he's gotten more involved in other things since he sold his insurance agency. But initially, Valuetainment was all about success and entrepreneurship. It was great. Really attracted a lot of people to his messaging, really attracted a lot of people to work with him. So as a CEO, becoming a thought leader, right, allows you to increase sales because people are going to want to buy more from your company, and you attract employees. They're going to like beg to work with you, and then attract investors. And who are some CEO thought leaders that are folks that you would recognize who did this? Well, Steve Jobs of Apple, right? 1998, Apple and Dell Computer were both in the computer business. Dell was a $12 billion company. Apple was just under $6 billion. 25 years later, Dell's a $102 billion company. Apple's a $400 billion company. That's because Steve Jobs deliberately became a thought leader, put himself out there, started put some messaging out there, and Michael Dell receded into the background. Both companies did well, but one did incredibly well. It's become probably the most valuable company in the history of the world. That's the power of thought leadership. But so I've done this for a few CEOs and really helped them think all this stuff through. But then I thought to myself, this is a great retention tool for top employees at a corporation. Like, if you're afraid that people are going to be poaching your best people, why not create a program or do our program that says, hey, you can come and do this thought leader program. It's going to set you up to understand your best qualities and strengths. It's going to help you develop those and put them out there so your career progression will be accelerated and you will be able to, be more fulfilled, make more money, and be the best version of you inside the world of business and work. And if you're like a highly prized employee and 20 people are trying to poach you from your current employer, but he goes, listen, you know what? I'm not just going to pay you good money. I'm going to give you this incredible training to make you like the go-to thought leader in your area, in our space. That's going to make you feel really good about this company. So we thought, wow, this would be a cool thing to show to some organizations and to have them put some of their key highest value employees through. And this to me is part of what you as a business owner to go, I'm creating a great culture. I'm creating a culture that attracts people because we're not trying to hold on to them for dear life. We're actually giving them a progression path that, if need be, sees them out of our company, but makes them higher while they're here. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. The thought that I have some sort of slavery office where I bring these people in, I try to find ways to enslave them. That's kind of been the mojo of most folks in the past. There was this kind of thing, taking them in. Look, people are with me for a limited amount of time. While they're with me, am I able to have them grow? Right? Am I the kind of leader that builds leaders, or am I the kind of leader that builds followers? Now, that's something you got to show up at the office ready to do. Now, look, when I'm at the lower me, right, the lower part of me, that lower fearful based entrepreneur, when I show up at the office from a fear space, right, and I show up in that office in that lower, there's a lower leader in me, like that one that's afraid of losing you. I'm going to be broke if you're gone, the world's over. The one that wants to hold on and capture. Somewhere in there, that becomes a way of being. Now, I also say that that's also the problem with growing, is that you stop being able to see other possibilities, that you get stuck in just making a paycheck for the day. And you're like, I just want to make a paycheck for the day. And if I could just make that paycheck and not lose that every day or make that every day, there's the stuck, right? The fear part of a leader for me as a leader, I look at it and go, oh, look, if I can show up here and I'm designing to make people the biggest they can be. If my goal today is to make big people out of every employee that comes in here, right? And they live their best life. They walk out of here and they walk on this planet with that feeling. At the end of the day, the company's successful. They want to be around those kind of people. There's a huge benefit. I don't mean to be all altruistic about it and act like there's no benefit to the company. There really is, right? When our people are living their best life, both mentally, physically, and financially, that shows up in the work that they do. I've always noticed that if I grow people, the companies I have grow. And all 9 companies that I have, they all grow when I grow people. And I've got small company. I got a company out of Florida that's got I've got a guy who's going through college growing a real estate fund I have down there. It's got, I don't know, 4 or 5 different properties that he's got down there. And look, the guy doesn't make a fortune, but we're teaching him how to be him and his wife, how to be property managers, to start a property management company. And, just going through the steps, and I'm watching him develop. And it's as he develops, we're going to take on another 4th and 5th property for that group, right? And they'll add more, and their income will go up another 40%. And you're looking at going, okay, hey, that's a great progression to go. Will he do that forever? I don't know, but I know that today he's committed to growing. He's committed to getting more into the finances. He's committed more in the relationship with the clients we have, and I think that there's a lot to that. So I'd like to, your work is phenomenal. Look, audience, if you haven't gotten it, having a business coach, if taking a guy like Nicky into your life, if you're an entrepreneur and you're out there right now and you're not ready, look, if you're complaining to everybody about they're not doing this, if you're a victim to the people that you work with, right? If you're a victim of, well, because Betty's not doing that, or she's not doing this, or my customers aren't doing that, stop being a victim. Get a coach, get a guy like Nicky to come into your company and look at the way that you act. And the problem is, remember, we got that liar up in our head that tells us it's them. And without a coach, without someone outside you that you can trust, right? That part of you that you can trust, you need a guy like Nicky to come in and help guide you.
I'm saying I wholeheartedly agree. Like I myself, just so you know, I have 6 coaches,
There you go.
6 that coach me in various areas of my life. I got a guy who's coaching me on, body transformation, get myself, into great shape. I got somebody who's been a nutrition coach. I've got my main business coach. I've got coaches me on meditation. I got a coach who coaches me on my relationship with my lady, and I got a coach who coaches me on my relationship with my sons. Like honestly, if you're someone who's played sports and you played multiple sports, you got to have coaches in every sport that you play. And life, if you look at life as a sport and the various areas of life as various sports, then you would be foolish not to get top-notch coaching in each area.
I'm gonna say something I think that's really valuable. What I notice about when you say that, right? Look, I'm with you. I've got a team of people around me, but I even notice that as you say that, there's triggers that happen. Right? There's that little, I don't know what it is. There's that little part of my brain that doesn't always want to change, right? That will make up stories. And that trigger, that's a pretty good sign. If people ask me, how do you know when you're doing good or how you're doing bad? Where do you know, where do I need to do the work? Most of the time that work happens right about where that trigger happens. That part of me that says, uh, right? That's the resistance. In the resistance has it, right? I can promise anybody that I've done this. I've done a lot of growth and personal development, this podcast and the different platforms, different companies I have, the different sobrieties and relationships and all the different places to go. The resistance is the persistence. And if I can let go, lay into the arms of my coaches, right? The people that I support around me, people are like, well, I can't afford to have a coach. I promise you can't afford not to have a coach, right? If you start with them with 1 day a week or 2 days a week, look, money happens just in setting up the time to get a coach. Money happens. I'm working with a guy. I'm going to go fishing this weekend, and I said to him, look, I would invite some other guys, and the other guys are like, oh, I can't afford to go. I can't afford to go do it. I'm like, look, when you jump into something, for some reason or another, the money shows up. I promise. If you just jump into the place where you can challenge your life, challenge your leadership, challenge your love life, challenge your spiritual life, challenge your physical life, all the things that are holding you back, the story that's holding you back, it's almost as if I really do judge it like there's some spirit back there that holds me back, that doesn't want me to change. It wants me to stay the same, sit in a cave, don't eat bonbons and don't push yourself. But on the other side of that, there's some sort of inspirational thing that happens where I get to walk on this planet with a different feeling, a different energy, a different way of being. And then I get to support other men and people in my life with that same energy. So Nicky, you are one of those men in my life. I'm grateful to have you on the show. Your iron sharpens iron way of thinking is phenomenal. Folks, you've got to get a second to go. Nicky, if people want to catch up with you, get some of your coaching, get some of your books. Let's talk a little bit about that real quick.
So to get on my calendar, like I offer something to business owners called a free complimentary success call. And this call is 45 minutes long, and you go onto my calendar, you go to ecircleacademy.com/appointment. And it's a real coaching call. It's not a bait and switch call. Okay, let me try to pitch you the entire call. We actually sit down and have a conversation about you, whatever it is you're dealing with inside your life and your business. And I'm going to give you a blueprint. Now, if we both like the cut of each other's jib and it makes sense for us to have a conversation about doing other things, we'll absolutely do that. But that happens in the last minute of the call, and the rest of the call is really all about giving you full value, and it's complimentary. So take advantage of that. As far as my books are concerned, I just thought I'd show a few of them to you right now. This is my kind of best known book, Finish Line Thinking, How to Think and Win Like a Champion. There's 2 editions of this. This is a really thin book. So if you want to like kind of get a sense of reading one of my books, you could do this in like 2 trips to the throne, as I tell folks. And it's really about how to think like a gold medal winner. This is a book that I wrote around thought leadership, the thought leader's journey. This is a book I wrote with one of my clients who's a $1 million a year earner in the insurance space. So we kind of wrote this to help salespeople get to the $1 million a year earners place. And these are my 2 political books that I wrote with Wayne Allen Root, the Great Patriot Protest and Boycott book, and the Great Patriot Boycott book. This is a list of companies that are woke, that I say you shouldn't patronize because they don't believe in you and your values. This is a list of companies that are patriotic that you should patronize because they believe in you and they believe in your values. So there you go. They're all available on Amazon.
I just got Finish Line Thinking on Kindle. It's pretty good. I'm flying down to Florida, and that's one of my reads for one of my listens to on the way down there. So I'm excited about that. Nicky, your work is phenomenal. I got audience. I know you feel that. If you guys have liked the show and love Nicky as much as I love him, take a second and like and subscribe for me. It makes the world of difference to me and Connor and all the guys and Joe in the back, all the team and Grace that put this team together and the work that we do. It's just changes. If you have any questions or anybody you want to see on the show, please take a second and put that down in the comments. We're going to link all of Nicky's links down below, links to the book, links to the Amazon. We'll have all that down below. So enjoy that. And as always, we're grateful for your listen.